think we are live now, and I would like to kick off today's Hong Kong FinTech Week 2020 Global Roadshow with a very special session with a focus on Australia and New Zealand. And the question we will be discussing today with amazing speakers that I will introduce soon is how you can scale your company out of overseas through Hong Kong and in Asia and globally. And I'm very excited to introduce our guests today. We have Dr. Luca de Leonardis, who is representative of Hong Kong Economic and Trade Office in Sydney, head of investment promotion. We have King Leung, head of FinTech in Invest Hong Kong, who is based in Hong Kong. And both of these gentlemen are really putting there a lot of effort to help you as companies that are looking to scale in Hong Kong to really assist them in this. We are very honored to have Kelvin Choi, the chairman and CEO of AMTD Group, also out of Hong Kong. And we have also an amazing guest today, which is Lucy Liu, who is the co-founder and president of Airwallex, the company started in Australia and then moved to Hong Kong and now scaling globally. And of course, myself, my name is Anthony Sarr. I'm the CEO and founder of FinAsia. This is the officially appointed organizer of the Hong Kong FinTech Week. And I must say, I'm very excited because we have not just our friends, dear friends from New Zealand and Australia joining, or might say dear mates, but also we have people joining us today from Singapore, from Malaysia, India, Bangladesh, Thailand, Philippines, Hong Kong, mainland China, France, Switzerland, Czech Republic, Ukraine, and even Argentina, Chile, Brazil, Azerbaijan, Israel, Turkey, United Kingdom, and finally the United States. We have a few hundred people joining us today. This is a very special session. So I would like to kick off, before we will start the panel conversation, I would like to kick off this with a few words of greetings from Luca, who will give a little bit of insight from his perspective based in Sydney on what will be the best strategy for companies looking to expand their fintech business outside of the markets through Hong Kong. Luca, please go ahead.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much, Anthony, and thank you all for attending this webinar today. So in the next 5 minutes, I would like to give you some information on why Hong Kong is important for Australian and New Zealand companies in the fintech space. So Hong Kong and Australia and New Zealand maintain strong economic and investment ties. So both countries are main sources of inward direct investment into Hong Kong. So generally speaking, Hong Kong represents a great springboard for our businesses in the region. The city is a good place for Australian and New Zealand companies to operate to and from China, thanks to Hong Kong's cultural similarity, the geographical proximity, and I would say the extensive experience in doing business in the mainland. So China is also the largest trading partner for both Australia and New Zealand for goods and services. For those reasons, many companies from this part of the world decided to have a physical presence in Hong Kong in order to manage their business on the ground. So according to the 2019 survey conducted by Invest Hong Kong, there are over 200 Australia and New Zealand companies in Hong Kong with regional headquarters, regional offices, and local offices. In addition, we also have around 100,000 Australians live in Hong Kong. So why Hong Kong is important for Australia and New Zealand companies in the fintech sector? I mentioned the strategic position, but Hong Kong is also a sophisticated international city with a business-friendly environment, and then the law and tax, the simple tax regime, the strong legal system, the free flow of information, capital, people, and goods, the world-class infrastructure fully connected to global markets, as well as our diversified talent pool. And in particular, nowadays, with the development of the Greater Bay Area, so Guangdong, Hong Kong, Macau, Greater Bay Area, Hong Kong offers Australia and New Zealand businesses significant opportunities that can be most effectively captured through their presence in Hong Kong. And Hong Kong has a very vibrant fintech ecosystem. So there are over 600 fintech companies in Hong Kong, and most of them use Hong Kong as a base for their regional expansion in the Greater Bay Area and for their global expansion. So based on our experience here in Australia and New Zealand, the number of fintech companies interested to Hong Kong is increasing every year, and our office is working with them in order to assist them to successfully expand over there. I would say sometimes there are concerns about Hong Kong or about the position of Hong Kong in this space, considering other hubs or cities in the region. I would like to guarantee you that Hong Kong can nowadays compete and excel in the technology and fintech sectors more than other hubs in the world, as we have developed and we continue to develop a great infrastructure and ecosystem, investing financial resources and at the same time investing in people. But what are the main success factors for our companies to operate in Hong Kong? First of all, the rich financial sector with operators in asset and wealth management, banking, digital payment, insurance. Hong Kong is the world's third largest and Asia's biggest financial center. It's also second in the world for insurance and number one in Asia for asset management. Second factor, as I mentioned, the Greater Bay Area and the ASEAN. Third, the high number of Hong Kong government funding schemes, such as, for example, for R&D, the Enterprise Support Scheme or Partnership Research Program, tax deduction for R&D, or the R&D Cash Rebate Scheme. Or for business development, the Technology Voucher or the Innovation and Technology Voucher Fund, just to name a few. Also, the private sector is very active for funding sources. So venture capital investments into fintech companies in Hong Kong have been more than 1.5 billion US dollars in the last 5 years. And for IPO fundraising, over 10 billion US dollars has been raised for fintech related companies. Over 6 of past 10 years, Hong Kong ranked number 1 in total IPO fund raised. Fourth element, Hong Kong has a wide professional and financial services talent base in accounting and audit, asset and wealth management, banking, insurance, and legal services, and the world-class fintech universities and innovation labs. Fifth element, the city boasts many spaces, accelerators, incubators, for example, the Hong Kong Science and Technology Park or Cyberport, and networking events supported by financial institutions and venture capital firms. Last but not the least, the low taxation regime. So we have two tiered tax system for corporate income. So 8.25% for the first 2 million Hong Kong dollars of profit and 16.5% above 2 million Hong Kong dollars of profit. I would like to also quickly mention about a few success stories, companies that have been assisted by our office here in Australia. A good example is Airwallex. Airwallex, they do cross-border payment, and a lot of startups know this company. They became a unicorn in the last couple of years. or Hyperana. Hyperana is another example. It's a AI-powered data analyst. So their technology unleash companies' data and to power high impact use cases, including cross-sell, upsells, expense management, revenue forecasting. Or another example, Pivotal Technologies. Pivotal Technologies is an innovative fintech startup specializing in building blockchain and artificial intelligence products for financial services, trade, and logistics companies. The company is actively working with the regional and the global banks and investors to bring the key products to the market. We also have from New Zealand, Cupital. Cupital was founded in 2016 and is a trade finance platform for small and medium enterprises across the greater China region. So Cupital basically helps small and medium enterprises to raise affordable working capital from professional investors through its online platform. Investors on the platform include high net worth individuals, family offices, and institutional investors. Those are only a few examples. We have also assisted other companies in the fintech sectors in the last few years. So I would say, just to conclude, in this challenging time, I've noticed that Australian and New Zealand companies have started to work on a different strategy to be prepared for a new scenario. So if Hong Kong is in your radar, please do not hesitate to contact our office in Sydney, myself and my colleague, Roberts. So we are more than happy to provide you assistance. All our assistance is completely free of charge. So don't be shy. So contact our office. And if, as mentioned, if your Hong Kong is in your radar, let's start this journey together. Thank you very much.
Thank you so much, Luca. And it's indeed exciting times in Hong Kong, but also it's great, the case studies that you mentioned. We will dive into them very, very fast. And of course, talking about the opportunities in Hong Kong, it's always best to come here in person and explore and meet people. But we know that the best timing for that is to go in November during the Hong Kong FinTech Week, which is the flagship FinTech event in Asia, and where we bring all these amazing entrepreneurs, investors, founders from all over the region and globally. We understand that during this travel and the challenging time and travel restrictions, not everyone will be able to attend. Therefore, we are going big in virtual space. So we heard you, and to address this challenge, we open this conference for everyone to join, no matter where you are in any place in the world, through our sophisticated live platform that we are going to release very soon. It's not going to be the same, another virtual event that you normally experience. We promise you will have amazing experience. And I'll just give you a quick preview what to expect. Again, so we will be doing this fully virtual with over 25,000 attendees. We expect over 350 speakers, the best people in the industry, to join the event, representing over 70 countries. And probably you are familiar, if you are familiar with our event, you probably heard of the quality of our content, and we will be announcing our new batch of speakers very soon. It will be a lot of surprises, so stay tuned. The big focus of this year's Hong Kong FinTech Week will be a lot on China FinTech, or TechFin, how it's usually they prefer to call themselves. China has been demonstrating a huge amount of innovations in that space, and we will dive into that and learn what's next for China TechFin giants. We will deep dive into the tech, such as AI, blockchain, big data, and of course, every event is about not just content, but also meeting people. And we understand there's a certain challenges, and now it's going to meet face-to-face. For this, we developed this amazing app that is AI-powered matchmaking networking app. So that will allow you to connect with very relevant people and have meaningful interactions with them fully online through the video calls and with the help of our algorithm, which will suggest you the best people to match with. So please make sure to make use out of this. Another interesting thing that we introduced this year for the first time is the Global Fast Track program. So for those of you who are in B2B FinTech business, please pay attention to that, because this is your opportunity to really leverage by participating in this program, as we are here for you to help to connect with the leading financial institutions in Hong Kong. If you have technology or solution that you would like to offer to the such companies like AMTD, which is our corporate champion, or Hong Kong Exchange, and many, many more, please go to FinTechHK Fast Track and learn about this and apply as soon as possible, because the deadline is coming on 31st of August. We will do our best to really bring you all these opportunities coming from the Hong Kong financial sector to really give you opportunity to find the clients and make business deals no matter where you are. Besides that, we will also offer opportunity to raise funds. We'll connect you with investors. We will provide you all the necessary support to obtain the lending support from the Hong Kong government. And of course, we even will be offering you the investment commitment for up to $1 million. So please check this out, Fast Track, on the FinTechWeek.HK. And I'm quickly moving to the most interesting part of today's call, which is the panel discussion with our distinguished guests. And I would like to quickly jump to Lucy. So for those who don't know, Airwallex is one of these fastest growing FinTech companies in the region. It's a FinTech unicorn. It raised over $180 million from very reputable investors such as Sequoia Capital, Tencent, DST Global, and we have a great opportunity to ask to learn from Airwallex experience directly from its co-founder Lucy, who is joining us today. Also, if you have any questions, please don't hesitate to click on Q&A section and send your questions. We will do our best to address them. So Lucy, if you can take me back to the day when you and your co-founder Jack Zhang were thinking about to start Airwallex 5 years ago. Can you take me there and let me know what made you, what was the reason for you to start this? What was the turning point?
Sure, Anthony. So I think, going back to 2015, the reason that we started Airwallex was because we saw a gap in the international payment space, especially for businesses. And with all of the new, business models emerging as a result of digitalization, globalization, there's just not enough, innovation in the space that is helping businesses grow internationally. And that's, I guess, why we started Airwallex with the goal to save cost and improve efficiencies for businesses that want to expand and scale internationally.
But you started back in Australia, right?
Yes, in Melbourne.
This market is not enough for you. At which point you decided to move out of Australia, and why you end up in bringing your headquarters in Hong Kong?
Yeah, so I think one is not to do with Australia not being big enough. Actually, it's more to do with us. Given that we're doing global payments, we're sort of like a global company by default. So if you think about, the currency that we offer, the coverage that we offer, it's very unlikely that we can only offer Australian dollars or, US dollars as a choice for our customers. And we moved to Hong Kong fairly quickly in 2016. So roughly about 6 months after we started Airwallex, because we saw a lot of demand in the Greater China and North Asian areas where our clients are. And we also at that time was building a lot of partnerships with banks in Hong Kong and banks in Singapore and other areas of Asia. So we thought that we need to be where our customers are, we need to be where our partners are. We're also invested by some of the most prominent Chinese investors. So we decided to set up our, headquarters in Hong Kong.
But you didn't choose other locations. You probably could have done it in Beijing or Shanghai. Why Hong Kong?
So I think Hong Kong is seen as the sort of the connector between mainland China and the rest of the world. And we needed a really good banking partner in Hong Kong. And in terms of regulations, we got our MSO license issued in Hong Kong. So it was quite straightforward that, we needed a big hub in Hong Kong. And in terms of talent, just through our personal networks and also through, referrals, we were able to get some very solid people in Hong Kong. So I think that's why we chose Hong Kong as our headquarters.
And we will be talking about the talent challenge also. So how many markets you are operating now in?
So in terms of office, we have 10 globally, and mostly in Asia, but we also have office in London and San Francisco.
Fantastic. Let me get back to that. And I would like to switch to Calvin. Calvin is the CEO and chairman of AMTD Group, is investment bank homegrown in Hong Kong that helps a lot of companies to do IPOs, raise funds in public markets and placements. But it also, a year ago, received a license for the virtual bank here in Hong Kong, together in partnership with the Xiaomi, which is one of the largest in the world producers of the smartphones. And obviously for MTD and for Xiaomi, Hong Kong is not an end goal. And since we're talking about the scalability, and we know that MTD recently also appealed for the license for the virtual bank in Singapore. So what's the next step for MTD in scaling its business? Where are you looking at beyond Hong Kong, beyond Singapore and China, where you have presence?
Thanks, Anthony. I think quite similar to what Lucy just introduced. I think, the first day that I'm building out the company, I'm not setting any limits or restrictive measures into what I want to be as a local company in a particular place or particular area. I want to become comprehensive. So I think from the first day that I have been building out a company, I think back in 2016, I think in fact, it's not just the investment bank. I think we have been long having other components of businesses, from investment banking to wealth management, institutional asset management, insurance brokerage, and also strategic investment. And now that I think today, we have been building out more comprehensively the buzzword internally, we call it the idea that, the I is our AMTD International, now already a listed company, NYSE and also SGX dual listed, and also represent the first dual class share scheme listed company in Southeast Asia. And then the D is everything that we build and we operate, for the digital space. And also the E is education, and the A is doing our valued investment. So we are building out into a more conglomerate form and a diversified manner. But I think ultimately what is the key is really about, we are building our ecosystem. So when we are building our ecosystem, we care a lot about, when onward you will talk about talent. So we care a lot about people. We care a lot about community building. We care a lot about, our, partners, right? How we rely more into the building out the ecosystem, but really is about a partnership approach. And ultimately, be diversity, that we want to be comprehensive and providing one-stop solution to our customers.
But yes, and ecosystem is a very interesting trend, especially in mainland China, is everyone is talking about ecosystems. And in particular, when you think of scaling, which regions you are considering at the moment beyond Hong Kong?
I see the overall opportunities. Of course, it will not be just in Hong Kong or definitely just within Asia. So I think I'm global, but I think given lots of the geopolitical and I think lots of the uncertainties surrounding the global situation right now, I think we are now seeing more of a regionalization approach that might be more relevant. So I think just within from Hong Kong and outside connecting with the rest of Asia, I think we are really seeing there is a great opportunity to connect from the Greater Bay to the ASEAN market. So I think, the Greater Bay will be an area of focus. Of course, Hong Kong is situated within the Greater Bay anyway. I think huge population, 71 million, but then, onward to connecting with Southeast Asia, of course, seeing also great momentum and lots of, great entrepreneurships, spirit, demonstrating, I think, lots of innovative companies there. So I think, in the past few months, we have made quite a few acquisitions there for Southeast Asia. So in the insurtech space, in the digital, payment space, and also into even digital asset exchange overall. So I think similar approach we are also eyeing for opportunities in the rest of Asia major market. But if you ask me to name a few, then we are also looking heavily into other than Singapore, Malaysia, and also Vietnam.
Oh, fantastic! Yes, and it's indeed you did make a few announcements on acquisitions recently in Singapore. It's very intriguing, and we look forward to see how AMTD will be scaling further in Southeast Asia. Lucy, you said you operate in 10 markets as of now. Back when you started in Australia, moved to Hong Kong, I guess you had certain picture how you will scale, and then you've met certain challenges, I guess, and certain things that you have to learn while scaling. What is the main difference for the fintech company from your standpoint when you run fintech business in Australia, in Hong Kong, in mainland China, other locations? What are the key differences here that you need to keep into account when you scale?
Yeah, sure. So I think payments is a highly regulated space. So wherever we went, we faced a lot of challenges from regulators, as well as, especially in the early days as a tiny startup, it's a lot harder to prove ourselves, as opposed to now, we have capital, we have, we have business. So I think the most challenging thing is, at the end of the day, regulators have different risk appetite when they're thinking about fintech. And in Australia, we got our first AFSL license in 2016. That sort of already proved to regulators that we have, the compliance mindset, we have the right people. But when we're talking to other regulators in other different countries, they all have different concerns. And it's about addressing those concerns and also finding the right partners that can sort of become the champion for your licenses. That was very important to us. I think we definitely had some challenges back in the first or 2 years of Airwallex, but as we got better, the process became more straightforward. We have the right people now in each of the markets, talking to the regulators, making sure that we're compliant all of the time. And I think that's probably the biggest challenge that we faced in the first 2 years. And yeah, so I think, it's a lot of work.
I can imagine, because basically for fintech, unlike other startups, you need to get approval and get being compliant with different jurisdictions and different geographies, and it's all quite challenging, especially for the young company, to gain this trust from the regulators in the most of the cases. And that's why maybe the Xiaomi partnered with AMTD to get the license in Hong Kong. That probably was the reason. But we will get back to that. King, I would like to ask you, from the government perspective, from Invest Hong Kong, you're here to support the companies that are scaling from overseas in Hong Kong. How you can help to with this most challenging thing with regulation, with licensing? How Invest Hong Kong supports the companies here?
Well, I think in a nutshell, there are just a lot of departments within the governments that are offering various types of licenses. And for overseas companies landing in Hong Kong, oftentimes it may be a bit confusing to even figure out who to talk to. So that's why a lot of times companies will come to us, and since we basically work closely with all these departments, we can help them to, in a very fast track, to talk to the right party. And once they submit, and if there's anything that is somehow stuck in the process, we are happy to also talk to the respective organization, be it the HMA or the MSO, being the custom departments, to figure out what's stuck, to try to facilitate the solving of those bottlenecks. So basically, we are here to help.
Fantastic. So for those of you who consider to scale here and have questions about regulation, sometimes it's not that easy to get access to regulators directly, but Investment Fund here may be best start for you to find and navigate within how and whom to approach first. We would like to also talk a little bit about the raising money. And I think Lucy has a great benchmark example of that. You've done a fantastic job with raising funds recently. And one of your investors, early investors, was Tencent, which is the largest tech company in China. Actually, I want just also mention that Tencent is investing not within China only, but also actively investing outside of China. They invested in Brazilian neobank Nubank, which is one of the fastest growing one, in N26 in Germany. What was this reason for you, from your perspective, why Tencent approached you? How was this negotiating went through, and how you convinced Tencent to invest in you?
Yeah, so Tencent invested in us in our Series A, so that was one of the earliest rounds that we did. The initial conversation was a financial one, so pretty straightforward. They're looking for, they're actually very open to the industries that they were investing in at that time. I think what draw their attention about us is that we're quite unique in the space. B2B payments is quite rare. There's a lot of consumer-facing payment companies. Cross-border, again, it's not that common. It's a space that's historically being very dominated by traditional players and banks. So I think it's sort of one of the areas that, that was pretty new to them. And we did a lot of, sessions, workshops to explain to them the potential of the market as well as our role in it. And I think at the end of the day, Series A is more about the people, it's about team, it's about the ambition itself. So that we're very lucky to have, a partner that supported us at Tencent, and they ultimately led that round together also with Sequoia and a few other investors.
Do you see them as more as a VC investor, or they are helping you to shape the business model or distribution, or where is the synergy?
So I think the synergy is definitely, we gain a lot of knowledge about the Chinese market, as well as about, just payments in general, as well as, business side of things, how to properly build a venture-backed business. So during the fundraising processes, obviously investors will help you with a lot of the legal and finance structures and things along those lines. So, and I think it's just over time, a relationship that we've built. We know each other really well now. We don't have to have constant conversations with each other to know what is going on. And on the business side, we're also now working with WeChat Pay for their international business. So I think definitely both on business and non-business side, we have a lot of synergies.
That's very, very interesting. And we'll continue this topic. I would like to switch to Calvin. And we understand that many overseas fintech companies are looking for the funding here in this region. And you as an MTD group have been working closely with many companies, helping to raise funds, whether you participated or led the IPO, or you've helped them to find money through the private placements. From your experience, from your perspective, if you would be talking to these overseas companies looking for funding, from Chinese investors especially, what you should know as an international company before approaching investors in China?
Well, I think no matter whether the investor they are from China or from different other places, now that I see that the whole overall market, I think, has been changing from before. I mean, now that especially the global pandemic, I think we do see that there are some slower of the overall activities, I think, in terms of investing. Not that in terms of the volume or the actual absolute amount, but it's in terms of the overall appetite. I think, people tend to be a little bit more, slow moving and, watch, twice before they decide, or previously, they will become, much quicker in terms of the decision. So, to sum it up, I see that now probably strategic investment, they will probably come first versus financial investment. So whether there is the actual synergistic, value, they can map it out of the investment, not just, commercially, but also strategically. And I think another angle is that I think repeated investors, so invest already, within your company, I think on your cap table, whether if you're growing your company in a very satisfactory way, then now that I think the investor might not intend to look, too wide of the space, that they might want to step up their investment to if it's the right investment or the good target to further invest. So I think those are the cases that we've been working on to maybe find some new investor, but always to get some of the existing investors to step up to form and complete another round. And I think another way is about more innovative approach that we see, or maybe even for Chinese investors per se, or maybe even globally, that you might be seeing more of a newer approach of investing that either through some acquisition or business combination, or formulating more of an aggregator that we see. Well, in fact, from my end, from AMTD, we have been playing a little bit of the different hats as well. And of course, as an investment bank, but ourselves have been actively investing. So I think, in this special moment in time, we've been adopting this particular strategy that we call the fusion-in approach, that we will do some share swap with the target that we identify. And of course, give them also the cash token as well, to basically align the interest. That we see that in this particular moment in time, I think a wider partnership approach, but with a very clear met out interest alignment will be something, formulate a very good backbone or solid foundation for wider growth expansion.
Understood. And I just want to remind those who are considering to raise funds, apply for the fast track program, and they will connect you with the AMTD group and see if you will have this opportunity. Continue this topic of raising funds. The very sexy thing about these days is IPO, following this announcement from Ant Financial, which is supposed to be the largest IPO globally in Shanghai and Hong Kong. Lucy, for Airwallex, what's your plans? When is IPO?
We don't have a plan yet. I think it's definitely on the back of our mind, thinking about potentially IPO in the future, but currently we don't have anything, it's not a high priority for us.
Okay. So Kelvin, do you think, is this the right timing for investors, for the companies to consider IPO in Hong Kong at this point?
I think whether it's the right time, it all depends on the particular company situation, right? I agree with Lucy that I think even though the market could be, wide open, that, I think the global markets, of course, you see different time windows from time to time. So I think this year, I would say that it's, despite that there are many kind of like unfortunate or uncertainties, but you do see a good window for fundraising, in public markets, not only for the equity side, but also for the debt side. So I think the debt capital markets have been very much wide open. And of course, we have been very active, I think, both fronts. And in fact, not only for Hong Kong, but also globally. If you, without any discriminating, if you look, worldwide into even the Singapore market or the US market, I think Hong Kong market definitely, that you are seeing actually significant amount of activities going on. So I will tell you that now this year, the investor are actually having good appetite, strong appetite to do more of a precise asset allocation. So I think, good companies, I think good quality, players, especially with, larger size. And ultimately, I think, we see that, several trends going on. One is that investors are more chasing for size and magnitude. Of course, because of liquidity, because of overall volume, aftermarket, trading opportunities, but also in terms of, the next, world development. I think people are actually chasing for, scale. I think that's number one. I think number two is, of course, they are still chasing for yields, because I think in this difficult market, I think everyone chasing for something that would, produce higher returns. So I think, for bond market, I think it's actually very, excited. I think for this year, that you see different credits coming out, not just simply issuing short-term credit, but even more longer term credit. And some of the Hong Kong names, I think early this year and moving even into the pandemic, have been issuing perpetual bonds that people are seeing that, if you pick the right target, then you can be very long term in terms of your investment horizon. And I think finally, is that more diversity that we see in the market, that people, when we see that the market, when we say it's wide open, they're more willing and readily consider more global asset allocation building into their investment appetite. So I think it's all hopefully good news to both the buy and the sell side of the universe.
Fantastic. And yes, there are a lot of instruments to raise money here in Hong Kong besides IPO. And AMTD Group is very active in the space, and it's actually debuted last year itself with IPO in New York. King, from the government perspective, I know that you have a certain supporting programs to really help startups, companies to raise funds. Just to close this topic, what if you can make a three major points where and how entrepreneurs should whom should they approach in the government, how they can get funds, how much money they can raise, and what are their offerings?
But basically, the Hong Kong government has put forward quite a lot of resources in helping tech companies, not just FinTech, but tech as a whole category. Now, in a nutshell, we have done a quick study about if we have to add up all the funds that a FinTech company is eligible. So basically, we come up with a number of 20 million Hong Kong. So that's roughly 2.5 million US. That of government subsidies from various departments to help with their R&D in terms of people. There's some additional funding for the hiring in terms of wages, subsidies. There's some funding on the business development side in which the POC can be paid for by this fund partially. And then there's also some funds for helping international expansion beyond Hong Kong and other funds for marketing. So there's a whole collection of support schemes that would basically give a boost to a FinTech entrepreneur setting up in Hong Kong.
Fantastic. Yes, you are free. Welcome to find out more. Connect with Luca, with King to find what are the opportunities, whom you should approach in the government to get support with funding. There's a question coming to us from the audience. Question is addressed to Lucy. Interesting one. Alibaba Entrepreneurs Fund is your new investor. Congratulations. How would Alibaba help you in the future for your business? And from myself, how do your Tencent investor feel about that as well?
Well, obviously, it's a discussion that we've already had with Tencent. And so for those of you who probably don't know, well, most of you probably know that, Alibaba Entrepreneurs Fund is actually a fund that Ali set up specifically to support the Hong Kong startup and as well as the Taiwan startup communities. And I think, taking the investment from them always shows that, our commitment to the Greater Bay Area and to our, business partners and also as well as our customers in Hong Kong. So Ali definitely have a lot of footprint globally in terms of payments and in terms of marketplaces, e-commerce, and we're very excited to see where we can work together on that with them.
It's very interesting. So being in Hong Kong gives you an opportunity not just to raise money from Tencent, but also from Alibaba. Same time, this is quite a unique proposition. Calvin, let's talk a little bit about talent. And you started a few months ago when you received the license a year ago with the Xiaomi. You had to hire basically a few hundreds of people in a very short period of time, not just hiring, but actually build this actual bank, which is Airstar. What was the biggest challenge for you with talents and how do you overcome it?
Well, I think first of all, it's a wonderful, amazing experience that you will be able to build out a bank from scratch. I think, of course, remembering every moment that we been going through the application until the day that when I hold the license certificate on the hand. But then onward, I think it's actually a significant amount of heavy lifting and lots of work in terms of interviewing over 100 of candidates. In fact, of course, we don't have several hundred, Anthony. We have less than 200. But then of course, it's still a huge team on top of AMTD and or Xiaomi Hong Kong existing staff presence. So I think, in fact, we are building a troop of good talents. I think the most difficult moment, I think, or during the whole process, I think, is to find the most appropriate talent. I mean, there are lots of talents, right? But whether these are the appropriate talents, I think, for this particular project, I think and early on when you say that the tech fin, the word, or also or maybe fintech, I mean, how to balance out or to find the talents that are good both sides of the world. I think it's actually more easy to think, but then more difficult to actually doing it. I think Hong Kong is of course an international financial center with hundreds of banks. But I think lots of these bankers or the experienced bankers, they are not only their age or in terms of the experience, are with the traditional banks, right? So I think this will be a very important moment, I think, for Hong Kong, that we are actually crafting the industry or crafting a new industry. That I think you see more of the traditional talents from the financial services space joining digital banks, but from the process they become more digital knowledge enabled. But at the same time, more of the tech talents, they are learning more about financial services. So I think the experience will be amazing. So I think and this also will onward to craft the overall digital talents building, I think, not only for Hong Kong, but for the overall of Asia. So from our end, I think, Anthony, that we, thanks to the government side, with their support, we work very closely with the Polytechnic University. We created 2 years ago the first FinTech school in Hong Kong. And now this year already giving out for the first class of students a PhD degree in FinTech. And we have been also building similar kinds of digital talents, upskill or training program that we partner with Xiaomi and also with two universities in Singapore, where we build something called the XC program, again, to build digital talents. So, a large part of my thinking into investing in the future will be investing into digital talents.
It's great initiative, especially for the long-term sustainable development of the industry. It's important to have that proper education. And Lucy, you mentioned one of the reasons you moved to Hong Kong because you heard that you were told that the talents are here available. And what was the biggest challenge for you with finding the specific talents, and how do you distribute between the different regions? What kind of people, for workforce you station in different locations? What will be the best solution from your perspective?
Yeah, so I think with Airwallex, we have the luxury of having so many offices now that we don't tend to restrict ourselves with the geographic location of a particular candidate. So for example, we have our general counsel and chief compliance officer located in Hong Kong, very experienced Jeanette Chan. We also have, our head of brand, Susan, who is also in Hong Kong, but at the same time, our financial partnerships head is in Singapore. So a lot of times when we restrict ourselves to a particular location, it's a lot harder for us to look for the right person. So especially now with COVID and people taking another think about future of work, we're a lot more accepting of remote working as well. As long as we're able to make it work and people have the resilience and the adaptability to surviving a global startup like ourselves. So I think our experience in Hong Kong is there are a lot of people with very solid and good finance experience, bilingual, got exposure to global banks, global organizations, but probably on the technology side, it's lacking a little bit compared to some of the other locations, such as Singapore or Shanghai. But we make it work. We just try to find the right person and forget about where they are.
Right, exactly, and it is absolutely during this pandemic it shows and proves that remote work can work, and it's how allocate the different staff. It's very also a sort of art in that sense. And King, from the government perspective, I know the talents is a very important area. So what is Hong Kong government doing to improve this shortage of talents? And what kind of talents we have available at this point that we need to leverage on?
First of all, the thanks to organizations like AMTD. Actually, there are just a lot of fintech programs just sprung up all over Hong Kong in the past, I would say 3 to 5 years. I guess I lost track. There are probably at least more than 10 different fintech programs by now offered by different universities. At the same time, the Hong Kong government-related entities like the HMA, the South Ports, they also work closely with some international players to make sure that we bring in curriculum that's more international in nature, so that we can, in a way, sort of fast-track the talents upskilling for the local folks. Now, from the technology side, there are also a lot of initiatives to try to attract major companies to set up their innovation labs in Hong Kong. So, for example, there's a major company, is a rising star in Canada called Impact. So they are the fastest growing insurance company, very tech savvy, strong in AI. And they thought that, well, perhaps we need to tap into the whole different ecosystem of talents. So then they basically decided to set up internationally in Hong Kong at the Hong Kong Science Park. So now they are, actually they already started last year. So now they are in a way hiring and training a lot of top-notch AI talents, now physically here in Hong Kong. So again, there's just a lot of programs like this, from technology side, and the finance side, fintech curriculums. So you select all out efforts to try to enhance this talent supply.
Yeah, and I just want to add to this. My personal experience, I think the challenge was to find the creative talents here in Hong Kong. So I probably because of the Asian culture, Asian tiger moms don't want their kids to become designers. So we have a lot of bankers in Hong Kong, but I had to outsource design into Russia. That's the solution at this moment. I hope there will be more creative talents. We have a question coming from the audience addressed to Lucy. A lot of fintech businesses are targeting Asia Pacific right now, including B2B payment unicorns. What would be Airwallex strengths to keep your leading positions?
I think, first of all, we are heavily invested in our infrastructure. So we basically try to do everything ourselves. It's a lot of work, but being a very product and tech-driven company, we tend to try to develop everything in-house. And, many of you know that we started being the FX provider or the payment provider for businesses, but now that we also expanded into other product lines such as payment acceptance, payment gateway, we recently launched a Visa card together with Visa. So I think we're constantly trying to add new things to the Airwallex end-to-end solution, and by doing so, I guess, trying to be a step ahead of other competitors so that, our customers can get the best value out of us, and we can basically provide them with anything that they need through a single connection or just a login onto our website.
And the fact that you're based here, you're not coming from elsewhere, you also have a base. It's also
yes.
a differentiator from the other companies, the global B2B.
Definitely, yes.
You understand how this part of the world works. The question coming from the audience about the progress of virtual bank. I know, Kelvin, that I'm using your pilot version as exciting, the AirStar, and it's going to be public. And also for myself, also interesting, and for others, I think, what will be how you leverage on this connection with Xiaomi? What the special will be that Xiaomi and AMTD will bring on the market?
I think Xiaomi, as we all know, that they are more than just a mobile handset brand, but they are also very powerful in terms of their IoT platform. So they are in fact the largest IoT consumer platform globally. So I think there will be lots of future areas of drive that we want to combine up in terms of the hardware, the IoT tools and gadgets into what you expect for the newer way of banking. I think nowadays, of course, with the overall COVID-19 has been accelerating the overall digital living of everyone. So I think this IoT enabled banking is something, of course, a little secret, from our end, that I think you will be expecting more to be rolling out. But at the same time, I think it's also something uniquely position for our bank as well, because you see, you know, any other, you know, similar banks, you know, for the digital banks or virtual banks, might not be everyone that they have the hardware, or maybe we are the only one. So I think how to incorporate everything into a comprehensive experience. You know, the motto I think is really to provide banking in a very simple and transparent way, and to incorporate banking into your day-to-day living.
Okay, fantastic. I know it's a secret, but we're all looking forward to find out what's going to happen next week. We are running out of time, so I would like to ask everyone one question. Please be very short. Since we have a lot of entrepreneurs, fintech companies that looking for scaling in this region in Hong Kong, what will be your advice? What things you need to take into consideration when you scale your business in Hong Kong, in Asia? Perhaps Lucy can, from your experience, what are 3 things that you would recommend and founders to think of before they start to scale within the fintech market here?
Okay, so I think the first thing is, do you have to do it yourself or you can partner? So which is the quickest way entry into market, and which way is cheaper for you business-wise? And number 2 is probably being very mindful of the regulations and do your research, make sure that you're fully compliant. And the third one is probably just network, build relationships that will probably be the most valuable resource for you in the future when setting up the business in Hong Kong.
Fantastic. Kelvin, what's from your experience? What are 3 things, the key things that are important in a very short but powerful way?
I think, you know, quite similar to what Lucy already mentioned, but I think the number 1 I would put is actually local talents. You need to build up your local capability, not everything just, you know, kind of like, you know, parachute, you know, from outside. Then I think the local connectivity, I think through the local talents, that's number 1. I think number 2 is connect with the, you know, right network, no matter industry association type or even the government, you know, connect with Invest Hong Kong or the local, you know, investment liaison officers. They can always provide you with wider connectivity or support. I think finally, I think is to, you know, find the local partner. I think as, you know, Lucy already mentioned that from my end, I'm a strong believer in partnership approach anyway. So I think, you know, that will accelerate a lot in terms of your pace and also your integration into the local community.
Fantastic. And finally, King, what's, from your perspective, what are the 3 key things for the fintech companies coming from overseas to Hong Kong? And you know that what kind of mistakes they usually do, what kind of questions they ask you. Please tell us what are the 3 key things they need to bear in mind when they scale here.
Sure. Now, first of all, I think when we look at the whole entrepreneurial journey, now again, we are very proud and very grateful that Airwallex has been doing so well. Now, but at the same time, for a lot of other companies that are in the earlier stage, they may not be able to do and so-called conquer all the battlefronts by themselves. So the first advice is to really, I mean, echoing what Lucy and Kelvin said, not try to sort of boil everything by yourself, reach out for help. And a good place to reach out for help is through us, Invest Hong Kong, because we are with a hub. We are connected to virtually everybody in the fintech world and public sector, private sector in Hong Kong. So it probably fast track your ability to find the right partner to help you. So that's the first bit. Now the second part is really about, I think I would like to take it from a different angle. Now partnership definitely is one important way to go. And then I think there are actually quite a lot of, I would say, more so-called traditional, you know, organizations in Hong Kong. They've been in Hong Kong and Asia for decades. And these guys that just so, you know, so entrenched, a lot of resources around Asia. So one example is another virtual bank in Hong Kong called WeLab. So WeLab started in Hong Kong, they expanded to China, very successful. And in recent year, they expanded into Indonesia, also very successfully. And the way they did that is opposed to going into Indonesia by themselves, even though they're well-funded. They decided to work with Jardines, which is an enormous conglomerate, have been operating in Hong Kong for like over a century. And these guys, they're just so well-connected with a lot of resources on the ground in Indonesia. And then I think the rest is history. So basically, we leverage on that network and subsidiary of Jardine, and then now expanding quite well in Indonesia. So the last but not least, I think the investment community in Hong Kong, I think when we talk to the head of the Hong Kong VCA, which is the VC PE Association, largest one in Hong Kong. In fact, I was told this is the longest running, most established in Asia. If you add up all the funds under management by all the VCs, hundreds of them in Hong Kong, family offices and whatnot, it added up to over $2 trillion of private capital. Okay, so as Luca said, the public IPOs, Hong Kong has been #1, 6 of the past 10 years. But even on the private capital side, it's an enormous pool of private capital. So again, this is a great place to raise money to help you grow.
Fantastic. Thank you so much. Thank you, everyone. And we are running out of time. Just for everyone who are joining this session, this is a very tiny preview of what you can expect during the Hong Kong FinTech Week this year. We have 300 more fantastic entrepreneurs joining the FinTech Week. So from my side, if you are considering to do something here, please, you must attend this event. This is the perfect place for you to learn and meet this relevant people, even though we're now not able to come physically. So I would like to thank Lucy, thank Kelvin, thank King and Luca for this fantastic session. We're looking forward to seeing all of you joining the Hong Kong FinTech Week in November. Please stay tuned for more updates and have a great day, everyone.